This is it, everyone. Wind and Truth.
This is the moment. This is the one we've been waiting for what is it, like 18 months now? We've been pumping ourselves up for this.
Months.
Reading hundreds of hours of books to prepare ourselves for everything we needed to read Wind and Truth. And it's released.
Yes, it's released, and it has not been letting me down.
Oh my goodness.
Page 1 of this book. Jaden and I went to Dragonsteel Nexus this year, and we actually started this book together on like the way to Dragonsteel Nexus, or in the craziness of the craziness. It blew our minds from page 1. We turned it on, and we were dead silent for like half an hour.
Yeah, I don't know if you know this actually, but I re-listened to that entire thing.
You did?
Yeah.
Oh man.
I was like, I gotta do it again. I'd like have that brief intro moment, like the prologue, literally. Reread the prologue twice. Oh, that's how much hype.
So good. So good. We're going to talk about all of days 1 through 3. And if you haven't read this book or are reading along with us, it's parts 1 through 3.
So we'll contain spoilers for parts 1 through 3. I have some interesting things that I really want to talk about when we get to part 3 for sure.
Yes.
We have some interesting takes.
Lots of interesting takes, lots of interesting questions, lots of theories for what's going to happen in the rest of the book. Please do not spoil the book to us in the comments.
I want to start with a theory.
Okay, so we will start with a theory and we'll jump into it and probably end with our top 5 moments so far in the book.
I love it. Okay, so my theory at the beginning, and this is something I have mentioned in a previous video, so that can be fact checked. I think Wind and Truth. Okay.
Ooh.
The reason it's named Wind and Truth is because Wind represents Kaladin and Truth represents Zeth. So my theory is that the most important storyline in the book is going to be the quest that Kaladin and Zeth are on. And I said that before this book came out, for the record.
Wow. And it kind of starting to feel that way.
It could be. I'm getting positive vibes from the first couple of parts, but I will say, I mean, I could be wrong, but it is starting to turn out pretty awesome. I love that storyline. Spoiler alert for this whole video. I love that storyline.
This is going to be spoilers for the first 3 parts, so you've been warned. But I agree with that. I think it's something with that. I mean, you've even got the wind talking to you now, and so clearly...
Roshar talking to you.
Here's the thing, though. The book was originally going to be titled The Knights of Wind and Truth.
That helped. That made it easier to make my theory.
Yeah. Yeah, so you think that they're the Knights?
I think they're the Knights of Wind and Truth.
Interesting.
Yeah, I do.
Because interesting. Okay, now we're just jumping straight into theories. No, we'll get there.
We gotta wait.
There's some suspicious things going on with the Wind and the Stormfather. And this very much
That's a great segue to the beginning.
Yes.
If you want to talk about the
Stormfather. So let's start with the beginning here.
Okay.
It kicks off like,
oh man,
it is crazy. First of all, Gavalar, what in the world?
We knew this was coming too. We knew it was going to be. The prologue is always a retelling of that same story.
Yes, and we finally got the most important telling of the story.
Did we expect it to be Gavalar himself, or did we expect it to be Yasna's?
No, we've already seen Yasna's.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember like what we anticipated it being.
I don't think we anticipated his horse. Like they've done everyone.
Who said that? Was that you?
Yeah, it was a commenter in the YouTube.
Oh, that's good.
Man, the internet.
So yeah, Gavalar's own recollection of what happened.
Yes,
and
it starts off
fantastic.
He said, "Oh my gosh, the first line of this book is just." Gotta read it.
And if you don't have the physical copy of the book, I have to just mention this as he's thumbing through. These are the thinnest pages I've ever seen in the book. It's unbelievable how much he tried to combine into one book. It is just
absolutely insane. Apparently, it's the most pages you can bind into a book. Like
yeah,
at all. Like they went up to the very limit. Like you couldn't bind a book bigger than this.
I love it.
Anyways, it says Gavalar Kholin was on the verge of immortality. He merely had to find the right words.
That's a great start.
Oh my goodness.
It's a great start. And you learn more about Gavalar and you figure out he's trying to hack being a Radiant. He's literally trying to like weasel his way into becoming a Radiant, and he's constantly being rebuffed by the fact that you have to actually have intention and good intention. But he's like, are these the words? What about this? Are these the words?
These words are not accepted.
And the Stormfather keeps saying these words are not accepted.
Oh, so
and he keeps
crazy.
telling him like, you will not come across these words by guessing. And he's like, are the words in the Way of Kings? And he's like, yes. But again, you will not find these words by just continuing to say a bunch of things and hope it sticks.
But the thing is, though, it kind of seems like yes, the Stormfather says that, but it doesn't really feel like the Stormfather believes that.
He is sketchy. He's
it is
a lot
really
sketchier.
weird.
Yes.
Really weird.
So he's trying to, maybe he's trying to bond. So we learn a lot in like the first 4 books that the Stormfather is trying to find someone who can help with these visions, like understand the visions and become like, I think become a bondsmith is kind of my vibe. And he hasn't found it. What we learn in this first prologue is that he was trying really hard to make Gavalar be that person. Like he intentionally came to Gavalar to try and make that work.
Well, but Gavalar isn't even trying to be a bondsmith.
No, he's not
trying
doing
to
it
become,
right.
he's trying to become a herald.
Yeah.
That is the big difference. Like
the herald.
Yeah, he doesn't want to. He's skipping the radiant thing. He wants to become a herald. He wants to live forever. He wants to be able to like cut. Like he's like, I'll skip the torture. Like,
yeah,
I'll
he's
just
like,
come
I'll
right
just
back.
break immediately and come straight back.
He's like, I'm not going to go crazy over this. And the Stormfather's like, what in the world? Like that's not how it works.
Yeah, I think that there's the disconnect there. He's like, well, you can't just cheat the system like that. I think it makes sense to me because you can't really. You think the concept of like they beat the Voidbringers back and then they send them to Braze and then on Braze they torture the heralds, right, until they come back. But you can't. The reason they go for as long as they can is because humanity has been decimated. Like,
yeah,
they have to completely rebuild from basically the Stone Age to get back to any sense of like civilization. So him saying, "Oh, I'll just come back immediately," like there's nothing to come back to. Like I think that's the big part of why these returns have to be spaced out.
Yeah, maybe though, because he's trying to say he's like, I think that the wars make us better, and like that's the whole purpose of life is war, anyways.
Yeah.
And that's just the culture they've been like been raised in. It's just crazy. But all of this also is crazy that he's talking to the Stormfather in the first place.
Yeah, and he's just chatting with him. The Stormfather's actually, I think,
he's giving him
doesn't
visions.
He present himself physically.
Well, yeah, he
He's
does
like
that
a
too.
little mini
Yeah.
person on the desk. Yeah. I love that part.
It's so cool.
It's one of my favorite parts.
Jaden's like mentioned that the first thing when he read the book, like
it's like a little mini Stormfather on the desk.
It's like the little plushies that you got from
exactly.
Like,
that's the plushie I want.
Yeah,
that's fantastic.
But I'm like, he's seen visions just like Dalinar was.
Mm-hmm.
He's walking around
He's reading Way of Kings, yeah.
Yep, he's walking around the different shards that were shoved into the ground, the 10 honor blades.
Yeah.
And he like knows all of them so well because he's been there over and over and over again.
Trying to find the words, yeah.
Yes, and he's like big plans for all these things, and then he's not inviting Navani in on it on purpose because was he like worried that she'd want the...
He has become so. I think you get the sense that his ambition has like gone crazy.
Yes,
like, he doesn't care about anything. He's like, none of these little peons or these kings of rulers of these countries next to me. None of this matters because I'm going to be an immortal herald.
Yes,
like all of these squabbles are nothing to me because I'm going to live forever.
Yeah.
So he basically has gone insane. But he's just basically considering the fact that nobody, everyone's beneath him. Everyone that lives and exists is immortal.
And even to his brother, his wife, like there was a moment in there that it just kind of shows like how far Gavalar
gone he is.
Yes, because like so Dalinar just has this moment where his whole life he has been just so torn apart that his brother, the last thing that he tells him is remember the codes tonight. And then all he does is just drink his life away, and he's not there for his brother. But Gavalar specifically tells him that, not because he actually cares about the codes, but because he knows it's going to remind his brother of drinking and going to get him go off to drink more.
Yes, he's intentionally doing it. And the fact that this, you literally start to think of Gavalar as this great king, united everyone, is basically the next Sunmaker. And then you read this and you're like, he wasn't all that great. Like, he really went off the deep end with some of these, like, I'm the best. His ambition was toxic at this point.
It was. And it is so ambitious that he started doing things he didn't trust people.
He didn't trust anyone.
And so he's taught himself how to read even. And so he's like, I can start reading these things so I can do these things in secret.
Yep.
And
he's working with different groups of people and pitting them against each other. You see that he's been working with the Ghostbloods. He's also like working directly with, is it Ristaris and...
The Sons of Honor?
Yeah, the Sons of Honor. He's like working with all these groups and trying to like... manipulate a bunch of other secret groups as well because he's just, overconfident and overambitious.
This was insane. Like, how did you feel like while you were reading this?
I felt like there was a lot of this that clearly had been going on in the first 4 books and we all had no idea. Yeah. That's one of my favorite types of reveals. It's like, guess what? This has all been already happening. Like these ideas and thoughts. You think about all the information that Amaram had and he's like, where did that even come from? You kind of ignore it because it's really more in like the second book. And now you're like, oh my goodness, he was deeply involved in this stuff. Like he was working with, was it the Sons of Honor? Like he was trying to get all this secret information, and that's why he was trying to bring forth the Desolations as well because he was working kind of with Gavalar. It's crazy.
It is definitely the
Big
most
reveal.
shocking intro chapter.
Yeah, and it's the first chapter. You get all these reveals. And we've probably been talking for what? 10 minutes already?
I know. It's because it's crazy.
Yeah.
And we didn't even get to the part of like the Ghostbloods. You start seeing there are very specific people. We'll not go into their names on other planets, but the name of who's the leader of the Ghostbloods? Is Thydokar?
I'll tell you his name because it's mentioned in the book.
Oh man, we're not. Don't. It's too big of a spoiler, though.
They say it in the book.
They do.
In Wind and Truth.
You're right.
That's on Sanderson. That's not on me.
That is. See, this is where reading order matters. It matters for this book, does it not?
I think it does matter.
Yeah. Does it ruin?
I don't think it ruins
books?
it though. No.
Anyways, okay, go for it.
I don't think it ruins it, but they specifically mention Kelsier by name in this book as like the name of Thydokar.
Yep.
Which is interesting because in all previous books they always refer to him by like a code name or something else. But here they specifically say Kelsier, and that surprised me enough that I wrote it down. I'm like, whoa, that was bold.
Huge.
That's bold of Sanderson to do. But I think the reason for it is because, I mean,
he's a main player,
15 years old.
Yeah, that's true. But Kelsier and the Ghostbloods and Thydokar, like he's a main player now in this book.
But he comes into the prologue as a Sion, so he doesn't really come in. I love the Sions too. I'm a huge fan of Elantris.
Yeah.
But it's like all these things are coming together in this prologue from tons of different books and series that you're like, wow, that stuff is happening on Roshar.
Well, he scares the crap out of Gavalar with that. Like,
yeah,
as a Sion and then just drops and like disappears like as a ghost type thing. He's like, what in the world is going on? Like,
he has no idea. That's the thing. Gavalar has no idea what he's messing with. That's the crazy thing. He's like, oh, I'm this all-powerful. I'm going to become a herald. And like, you are so ignorant to all of the crazy stuff that's happening across the Cosmere that you're trying to mess with.
And it's even crazier too because he is aiming for the highest power he can imagine, and he doesn't even realize that there's a power that's attainable that's already there for the taking. It's Honor's power, which they discussed, which he didn't even know was there.
Specifically does not mention that too.
He doesn't.
Yeah, I think that's crazy.
Oh my gosh. But the Stormfather is like a little sus, is like from what we've heard.
Oh, you do learn that the Stormfather is
a
intentionally lying.
He's a liar!
He is a liar. That's a big deal.
Yeah. What does he lie about? He says, I can't remember what he lies about in the opening scene.
Well, I think he's realizing how bad like the light is.
Oh, he lied about Restaris. That's what it was.
The fact that he was a herald?
Yeah, that he was a herald. He's like, no, they're not heralds or whatever. And they were. Like,
they were both. He was like, are you telling me he's a herald? Like, yep. Wait, so the heralds are here? And like, yep, they're here.
Oh my gosh. Okay, and this is another theory.
Okay, go for it.
There's a huge moment where Restaris leaves, and then Kelsier shows up, and then he leaves and stuff. Then all of a sudden, the Stormfather freaks out and says like one of the heralds have died.
Yes.
Has died.
That's the moment he realizes he's been lying, by the way.
Yes, that is the moment.
He's like, what are you talking about? You told me they were already...
Yeah. But this is a big moment because this is where my theory... I have a theory, and so does a lot of the internet.
That was a very common theory.
Before this book came out, so it's not based on the book at all.
Has a cool name too.
But I'm so confident it almost feels like a spoiler. But I'm gonna be wrong, but we'll see.
It's been a popular theory and it's been well published.
The theory is that Shalon's mom is a herald, and that she killed her mother and sent her mother back to Braze. And since she's crazy, she left Braze right away. And then started the desolation because a herald went back to Braze and broke. And they've always said, is it Talm never broke?
That's a big tagline.
It's a bigger. He never broke. And so if anybody were to go there,
had to break.
If any herald breaks, they all have to come back and the desolation come back. So the theory is that Shalon's mom was a herald. She came back because she's crazy after Shalon killed her. And the idea of why this is probably true is because it's very convenient that the same night that Shalon killed her mother was the same night that Gavalar died. And in this story, we hear, oh no, a herald has died.
That confirms it for sure, yeah.
And from Rhythm of War, it doesn't seem like Restaris was the one that did die because he's freaked out and he's hiding in lasting integrity, just kind of like, they're going to find me, they're going to kill me.
He wants to leave. He's like, get me off of this planet.
Yes. So absolutely.
Popular theory.
I think,
we'll see what everyone says in the comments because they know everything.
Except if you read the book, do not tell me.
Oh yeah, if you're coming in with spoilers, you might be banned from the channel.
Yeah, you might be banned from the channel. Like, there's part of me that doesn't want to read any of the comments until we're done with the book.
I saw a comment that said spoilers for Wind and Truth, and there was like 50,000 enters. First of all, thank you. That is exactly how you're supposed to do that. And I'm like, I'm just not going to open YouTube for a while.
I know, dude. That's where I'm
done.
at.
That's it. But yeah, so I do appreciate if you are going to post a spoiler, you put like a ton of white space because if I accidentally see that, I don't know, man. There's going to be a problem.
Yes. And so this is, I completely agree. And I just keep thinking about the Stormfather. This is a little bit jumping ahead, but they talk about how, I know, that cultivation appears and says like, hey, just so you know, she appears to Dalinar and says, just so you know, Honor's power is just sitting out there. Yeah. We have no idea, like,
the power's
like
not
where
gone.
It's at.
Yes, exactly.
I think... Well, this is my theory.
Another theory.
I have a theory. There's lots of theories because this is fun as we're reading the book.
Go ahead.
But I have a theory that it is not just sitting out there. I think the Stormfather has taken Honor's power.
What?
Yes. And
that's an out there theory.
It's not out there, okay?
Okay.
I think that's why the Stormfather is like so like looking for a
vessel.
Looking for a champion to like fight for him and things like that because he's already that. I think that's why the Wind keeps speaking to Kaladin and saying something's like wrong and why the Wind left, because the Stormfather, the Wind used to be a thing and then the storm came. And for some reason, the storm becoming a big deal forced out the Wind as being a big power on Roshar. And so I think something weird has happened with the Stormfather that has scared the Wind from what I'm thinking.
Interesting.
And I think it's that the Stormfather has taken the power of Honor.
Okay. Hey, we will find out.
Yes.
I don't know. That would be quite the hot take.
It would be interesting because why couldn't a Spren take the power? If a Spren is already obsessed with Honor, it would fit the power so well to already the emotion and the ideals perfectly. Like the Stormfather.
It's an interesting theory.
Yeah. I think it's pretty likely, but we'll see. Oh man, there are lots of things.
I know. I want to be going into like, well, technically, isn't he a piece of Honor already? Like, how would that?
But wouldn't that be perfect for a piece of Honor to take up?
To be all of Honor? How could a piece be? I don't get it.
No. It's not. He's not a shard, like a splinter of Honor. Like Honor didn't come from.
Isn't that what they say? That because of the power splintered, that if it's left alone for enough time, that it becomes sentient, and that's what most of the Spren came from?
I think the idea is that the power didn't splinter.
Okay, well let me hit you with my theory.
Because it didn't splinter, because that's why he can go and find it and take it up. If
we
it
don't
did splinter,
know that that's true, and this is where my theory comes in. Because I think that the thing that they've been saying over and over again, Honor is not dead so long as it lives in the hearts of men.
Yeah.
They keep saying that over and over. I think that there won't be a single vessel for Honor. I think Honor has to be a group of people. Because for one thing, it will be the Radiants. The Radiants will be Honor. The reason I say that is because the Spren are pieces of Honor's power that's become sentient, right? So if someone was to take up the power, you would essentially kill all the Spren. Because you would take all of their power into you and it would no longer be sentient. And because it's been splintered for so long, that connection... And Honor's not dead as long as it lives in the hearts of men. They said it so many times now that I'm like, I do think that the vessel for Honor will become all of the Radiants.
Okay, that's a really interesting theory. Okay, let me hit you back with one more for evidence from my side. So, Ba Edo Mishram. Okay, the Unmade.
Yes.
Was it cultivation or someone mentioned at the very end of part 3 that she would be the perfect vessel for Odium.
Taravangian says that.
Yeah, Taravangian
really
says
worried about it.
Yes,
yeah.
And which is crazy. So it does show that something that's not like more Spren-like can.
An Unmade is not a Spren though.
It's not.
An Unmade is not.
Are
a
you
Spren.
sure?
Yes.
I thought it was more Spren than human.
I'm not necessarily confident if it's more Spren or human, but I know it's not Spren and it's not human.
Okay.
It might be more one than the other.
You may be right, but either way, it shows that some sort of like thing that's just a investiture or power can take up a shard.
Can potentially be a vessel.
Yes.
So that's a good point. That's a good little.
When I read that part, I'm like, it's another hint that the Stormfather has become Honor.
That would be something else.
Yep.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, really cool. And that's why, and I think this is going back to the earlier books.
Okay.
I'm leaning into it more. Going back into the earlier books, this is why he is able to show Dalinar and show Gavalar all of these visions, because he's using the power of honor to do it.
And he's pretending like he gave me this power, but he actually took it. Well, have we completely given up on Lirin then?
He could be the one that gave up power. Like, he gave up the power in the first place.
So he was the vessel and he gave it up?
Yes.
Interesting.
I'm like not convinced though, because they did mention that like Honor died. I think Wit may have said that.
Yeah.
But who knows
what
dead means, you know?
Right?
Yeah.
They're not clear on that. Okay. You can't trust it.
Well, let me ask you this. If no one is holding the power, who is the most likely to take up the power by the end of this book?
If it has to be one person?
Do you think it's going to happen
and my theory can't be right?
Oh, you could be right. But if it has to be one person, though, who do you think the most likely is? I am starting to lean towards Adolin.
I could definitely see that.
Yeah, I think this is more of just because I could see Sanderson throwing in like a right turn, right turn, just throwing it out of left field and just like
that would be a good choice because of how he's been built up as a character.
Yes, and he's like showing that he's like
he's got all of the honor of Dalinar without like the treacherous past.
Yes,
so, yeah,
and everyone loves him, and he does the honorable things of
he's not a radiant, but he's working hard.
Yes.
Making it work, yeah.
Yeah, that was a big one. So, or it could be Kaladin, but I don't see it being Kaladin. It's not gonna be. It's not gonna be Dalinar.
It's not Dalinar. It's not Kaladin.
Yeah, it's not gonna.
You can't do that.
It's too obvious for Dalinar.
You can't OP a character that much. Brandon Sanderson would not do that to me.
Yeah,
I don't think so.
I mean, he kind of did with Kelsier, didn't he?
Oh, maybe. But I do think that there's enough back and forth that there have to be characters that are more powerful than others. But anyway, you know what? That's a lot from the prologue.
Yeah,
I think we should keep going. We briefly mentioned a lot of stuff about like the tower on day one and what happens in the tower on day one. Talking about culmination and Dalinar. I think that's a good place to go next.
Well, okay, so I just want to mention though that you mentioned day one. Say the other thing that blew me away from this book. Okay. My biggest theory coming to this book was actually not a theory about like what would happen, but just how the book would be written. That the Battle of Champions would be resolved in the first part 1 or part 2. If you have even opened up this book, you realize there are only 10 parts in this book.
It's in the table of contents.
It's in the table of contents, and it says each part, like day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, all the way through day 10. Yep. This book is 10 days long. Yeah. Like, this is crazy.
I feel like it's almost real time. Like, if you read at the rate that we're reading, you're basically reading a part, every couple of days. It's going slower than my readings. You know what I mean? Like, normally you read faster than... Yeah, it's pretty wild.
Yeah, which is... It absolutely blew my mind. So I thought for sure that that's what they would do, is they would take that big fight, put it right in the beginning, and then make a big turn. But...
The big turn is now going to be books 6 through 10, happening 10 years from now.
I know. There's something going on here that he's trying to allude to, because they keep saying it over and over and over again with the wind, and the wind keeps saying like, hey, this big thing that you think is a big deal with the champions fighting and everything is not actually as big a deal as you think it is, of what's going on with Zeth and Kaladin. They keep saying...
Wind and truth, it's the most important story.
They're saying it's going to be a bigger deal than that fight.
I think it is.
Yeah.
I think what's happening there is a big deal.
Yeah.
And it's cool to learn about. But maybe we should go into that as a separate section. That will probably be close to the end of the video, like Kaladin and Zeth.
I know, I'm starting to go there already.
But we need to talk about the tower.
We do need to talk about the tower. But while we're on the topic, I do want to say, because you're talking about why it's going to be a bigger deal, there are things that they're starting to allude to already that are a bigger deal. Like, they start fighting through the shamans and everything. Yeah. The different of each tower. And they're doing things with the power that are like, they look like they have unlimited stormlight. How is that possible? And I think that kind of power is alluding to what the back half of the books 6 through 10 is going to be. Is about like that kind of power being held.
Okay, I think before we get into too much of the actual journey, I want to talk quickly about like what the send-off looked like, because Wit was very involved in that.
Oh yeah, Wit was really involved in that.
And that was huge for me. Like, I wrote down a bunch of stuff about Wit, and one of the things specifically is like super ominous, and I think Sanderson did this on purpose. Wit was very much like, say your goodbyes, like you never know what's gonna happen out there.
This
like,
happens in
careful.
TV shows all the time. If you watch for it in TV shows, the best way to know if a character's about to die, even if you have no clues from anything else in the book, in the show, the whole show turns into let's recap all the best moments from this character.
Yes.
And you're like, well, this character's dead by the end.
I think Sanderson's doing that on purpose to make you think he's going to die.
Yes.
Because he knows. He knows what all these tropes are. He knows what these literary things are. And that's so common that I think he's going to do that just to make you think like, oh man, his life is
as soon as I started reading this stuff, I'm like, he's living. Like, he's not dying.
He's overblown it to such a level. He's like literally took chapters to go and say goodbye to specific people that were important to him. I'm like, that's way too much.
Who was it? Richard that was betting that he would die or live?
Oh man, I don't remember which.
I think Richard was betting that he's dead, and this is me. We're saying, sorry, Richard, he's living.
I think he's gonna live. I think he's.
I don't know what horrible challenge you're gonna have to do now, but he's.
And the back and forth with Wit and Kaladin I really liked. I think that's gotten more hilarious over time. Like all the stuff they talk about with the flute and all that.
Oh yeah.
He teaches him to play a little bit. And I think that's a big clue. We learn a little bit more about it. Like, he's like, oh, practice this a lot because you'll start to learn the tones of Roshar. And like how the wind speaks to you. And I think that's really important. So we'll see over time. But
interesting.
He takes the flute with him.
I'm just like trying to think about that.
You were big on the talking wind. So
the talking wind is a massive deal.
Well, the flute is a big part of that because Wit knows that it's a big deal and he tells him as much. He's like, play these notes because you will connect with the wind. And that's what I think makes him hear the wind.
Oh my gosh.
I know. Wit is, always in there. He's always making a... But, I had one question for you. You know how you always know things about connections to things that I don't know? Well, one of the things that he mentions is he's going over the contract because he finds out that there's a flaw in his contract. And the big flaw is that the timing is off. Or no, there's another flaw that he finds. But one of the big things is that the timing is specific, where whatever lands they hold at the 10th day is what actually matters. So now they're on massive siege because if they lose all this land before the 10th day, then they're kind of screwed because then they lose everything. And the big part was there's this emperor, is it Yazir? Mm-hmm. That technically by the Alethi codes, they're the emperor.
It's Yanagorn.
Yanagon? Well, he's the emperor. I'm saying like the seat, not the person.
Of Yazir.
Yeah. But so like technically the laws state that whoever owns that land technically is governor of all of the Alethi people, even though no one really cares about that much. It's technically part of the law, and they go over that for a while. So like if he takes this emperor's seat place, he technically owns all of Roshar.
Yep.
And that's like a really big deal. And they're like, crap, because that's the law. One really quick side note on the law thing. I wrote this down because I'm like, that doesn't make any sense to me. Like, why could they not just pass a new law? If they're gonna be that stickler about it, pass a new law that says you can't own the land until you've been, possessed it for 30 days.
They talk about this. They say
not adequately for me.
Well,
not even close.
Wit talks about it because he's talking with the dragon,
Frost,
about it because he's like apparently really good at law. But he
no, he didn't want to talk. It was Frost's daughter.
Frost's daughter. That's right.
Frost was like, I'm not interested.
like I don't interfere with everything. That's
and Wit does.
He does. Yeah, but I think they basically say that you can't edit it because it'd be seen as cheating for like the
So this is where I would disagree because just the fact that Odium is trying to take land before that happens is already pushing that limit. So just changing the laws at that point wouldn't be a significant change to the letter of the law because you've already found that Odium is not honoring the spirit of the law already.
Yeah.
We've already figured that out. So I don't know why that would be. And he makes the big point of like, if we go against the spirit of the law, then Odium's full power is going to be unleashed on everyone. But I think that might be a little bit overblown. I think it was just a way to quickly sew up a plot hole and move on. I wasn't super happy with it.
Really? Yeah. I thought he did it just fine. I thought it worked. It made sense to me.
To each their own. But that it was sewn up and we moved on. And I moved on.
Yeah. That's interesting. Well, I will say that I think that Sanderson, if he was not an author, he would be an incredible lawyer in another life because what he does, not talking about law stuff specifically, but just the way that he writes his books, he is all about the loopholes. Every single book. This happens with his story. He's like, I'm going to find the tiniest little thing that seems like a weakness or seems like insignificant and turn it on its head and turn it into like this is how we're saving the day. This is like where like the
loophole,
the enemy is going to take advantage of you. He loves that. And I've actually heard him talk about this in in his podcast. He played like a lot of like Dungeons and Dragons type games growing up.
I love that story, actually.
Do you know what story I'm talking about?
I know exactly what you're talking about.
But he just talks about, he's like, he'd make these characters with these super weird quirks. And like, but then he would turn these quirks into like huge advantages and like
and he would convince everyone else playing that like, oh yeah, this is totally legit.
Yeah.
Like convince every other player to like basically work for him, for his character.
Yeah.
Because they're like, yeah, I mean, that makes sense. It probably works. Same.
Where did you hear this? I didn't know you listened to his...
Oh, it was one of his... I don't know if it was like a Q&A or if it was a...
Is it at Dragonsteel?
No. It's on a video of his.
Oh, I was intentionally blanked?
Yes.
I didn't know you watched Intentionally Blanked.
It was a funny one.
Yeah, it was really good. Yeah, those are great. If you haven't seen them, check them out. But you learn a lot more about it.
So, with one more thing with Wit, before we continue on to like the send-off of Kaladin and stuff, is his moment of realization that he's lost time in his memory. Yes. You were totally right. It's not a copper mind. And he specifically says, I feel like Sanderson saw our episode and he's like, you're going to find out. It like so specifically mentions what he's holding his memories in that I'm like, well, great. Okay.
Yeah. What did he say he was holding it in?
It's like, in breath.
Yeah, breaths. Yeah.
But so Brandon heard my mistake. He cleared that up. So there you go. We have the answer. But he learns that he lost 3 minutes and 27 seconds specifically. So he's able to do like some sort of cataloging of his memories. He's like, I'm missing time in my memory. That's never happened.
Yep.
So he finds out like not only is Ray's no longer Odium's vessel, like the new Odium's vessel is terrifying.
Oh, are you not just waiting for them to discover it's Taravangian? Like,
and they
it's
just can't.
Going to happen at some point.
Right in the story, they're like, who was it that's like the sword Nimi was like, I don't, like, did I kill that guy, that old guy? Who and he's like, yep, you killed Taravangian.
He's like, I feel kind of bad about that. Like,
I'm like, oh my goodness, they're just hinting at it over and over again.
Yeah, they even point out there's someone who realizes that it's not Ray's anymore. Was it Elle? Or someone realized?
Oh, Elle definitely realized. It's an interlude.
There was a few people who like realized, it was the...
Elle realizes it immediately.
It was also the Herald as well.
No one knows it's Taravangian, though.
I know. That's why I'm like...
But they all know it's not Ray's. Yeah.
That's so
interesting. The reason... So
it's probably because he looks different, too. I would bet he looks different.
Well, he can appear different to anyone.
Yeah.
But the thing that was cool with Elle is he's like, oh, what's so scary about this new Odium is that he doesn't care to, like, inflate his presence. Yeah. He just shows up as an old man.
Yeah.
And it's funny because Elle's like, that's scarier than it would have been because he knew that the other guy had a hubris of like Ray's. He would always come in big and strong and try to impress people. And Taravangian's like, yeah, it's no big deal. I'm going to be the like short old guy. And Elle's like, that's scarier.
Yeah. He's like, this guy is just so confident in himself.
He's so confident.
Oh my goodness. Well, should we talk about Elle for a moment? The big moments that I caught here is that they're talking about attacking the Shattered Plains and how big a deal it is.
Yeah.
The craziest thing though is he's starting to mention things. He's like, well, if we're gonna take the Shattered Plains, we're gonna have to do something crazy. He's like, I'm talking about bringing like a corrupted like Else Gate. Sounds like an Else Caller type thing, but like he's basically sounds like he's gonna make his own portal like into the middle of the Shattered Plains. That just sounds like a disaster waiting to happen in the back half of the books.
Yeah, and Odium seems to not care at all about his army and structures and leadership because like these fused and the 9, all of these have like existed for so long working with Rays, and Odium's like, whoever gets stuff done, the stuff that I need done, I don't care. Like Elle, you can lead everyone. You can direct the 9. I don't. You should get it done. And that, I think, is a big mix-up, and I think it's going to be a big deal for the Parshendi fused people.
And then Sanderson throwing his little bit of leadership advice in there, like a little touch of it. He's like, I don't condemn failure. Like he's like I will or die trying it to my destruction. Trying. He's like no. Like I don't destroy failure. like I encourage. Like he doesn't encourage it, but he's like that's the people who learn. And he's like that's again. We talked about this.
We had a long conversation about this with
Tutor Ramble. Over
lunch.
Yeah, it's the trope that like of all the villains who want to kill the messenger who give them bad advice. And I'm like, okay, like
their staff gives them bad news and they just kill them immediately.
Done. Like, you know what? How long any villain would last if they did that? They wouldn't at all because they would never have anyone giving them good advice. Like,
and everyone that's been trained for these positions specifically, like he's the one guy who's supposed to read these data reports and give the result. It's like, well, now he's dead. Like, you better hope the next guy's trained. Yeah. You're in the middle of a war.
You start getting bad information and then everything starts falling apart. He's not actually a bunch of
yes men surrounding you. Yeah,
absolutely. Like, oh, yeah. Awful.
So that's why Odium is terrifying in Taravangian's form.
He doesn't just want yes men.
No, I think that's...
I'm just kidding. But true, though.
It's a big part of it.
It is.
So when they do the... I don't know if this is too much of a stretch, but when they do the transition, they kind of send off Kaladin and they send off Adolin too to do some war stuff. This is a question about the Cosmere that I had for you, that I wrote down.
Ooh. Wow. You expect me to be able to know these answers?
Yeah, you always answer
We're the
questions.
everyday Cosmere fans.
I'm the everyday fan that doesn't know as many things
as this everyday fan.
So, okay, here's my question. When Dalinar sends Adolin to assist in other places, in other armies, in other kingdoms, he grants him connection.
Oh,
right?
Yes.
He touches him, gives him connection so that he can learn the language. Okay? Now, work with me on this. Why, if he has this connection, can he not already read and write? Is that not a form of language and communication? And since connection is language and communication, shouldn't it have granted him the ability to read and write?
My guess is that you could probably do that, but like maybe they haven't thought of it yet. This is the thing where like I'm realizing more and more how powerful like connection can be.
Exactly.
Because it kind of feels like you can do like
powerful.
anything with
like,
it.
How come that's like, oh, but no, it definitely can't help you write or read.
Yeah.
It seems like a big deal.
No, yeah, like okay, I'm gonna connect you to the ground like they did in book 4. So like you can't fly, and so your power is connected to the ground, and like and then
siphoning off power basically.
Yeah. And then I'm gonna connect you to like the people, so you can have like language, and it just seems like you can almost be as powerful as you are creative with it.
Like Ishar.
Yes, yeah. And I kind of wonder
like
that's why like a bondsmith is powerful. I don't know.
So I'm curious if anyone else has a thought on that. I don't know, but I'm curious if maybe Brandon says something. But you guys tend to know a lot of stuff in the comments, so if you know why connection can't be used for reading and writing, or maybe it can and they just haven't tried it like that, I'm super curious.
Yes.
But I think we've gotten to the part where we've sent off Kaladin and Zeth. They've gone, and then we've also sent off Adolin to prepare for these invasions.
Yes, and so we think that Wit is wrong, though, that Kaladin will come back, though.
I don't think he's wrong. I think he's right to be worried.
Yep.
But I think all of this prep for him to say all his goodbyes is Brandon, I think, throwing an olive branch and almost a joke against the common trope there.
Yes. Let me get into the little script before every single chapter. Okay? It's really fun to start like predicting the stuff. Who do you think the book Wind and Truth is written by? Were you thinking about it as I was reading each part?
I tried to think about it, and then it just got to where I was too focused on the story, and I'm like, I'm just kind of listening to these like I always do.
I know. At the beginning, I was like, oh, this sounds like Kaladin, like writing these, and it sounds like he's going to live. And so it kind of talks about like what the wind was saying to them the whole time, and like we should have known, and the wind like told us that these events were more important. Like looking back, it was right. But then as it's going on, it starts sounding like it's not Kaladin, and then I thought like it might be Syl, because she's like learning how to write and like being her
own person.
Yeah. Well, they even talk her being the scribe. That's what she was going to be.
She wants to be a
I'm
scribe.
like, that'd be cool. But I realized, before I came over here, I read through all of the leads again just to.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah, it was actually kind of fun. I recommend it. It's cool. But I realized it couldn't be either of them because it says that neither of them were there at the events that happened with the wind and with them. So
well, I want to go back to these interludes. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh yeah. I was just gonna say I think it might be Sigzil.
That could definitely be. He's a guy who would do it. I was gonna say I want to go back and reread some of the those little chapter
headings,
quips or whatever.
Yeah.
Because they all were like musings of El on the 4th of the final.
Oh, from the previous book.
I'm like, I want to go.
Not that one.
Rhythm of War is over here somewhere. But I want to read those ones now because I'm like, that's going to be very relevant to each of these parts. And we know who El is. We know what his role is. And like, now I want to know what he was thinking each day because it basically gives you a couple of the first days, a couple of the like 8th and 9th, 10th days. I think it could be cool to read.
It goes through the days?
Yeah, it says
read it right
musings
now?
of El on the first of the final 10 days. It specifically says that.
No,
soon.
No.
Maniac.
Oh
the
my
disrespect
gosh.
happening over here.
Dead.
Oh, yeah. That's very effective.
Very effective. Oh no.
Who's that you're messing with now?
Zeth.
Oh my goodness.
There's Zeth pin. Oh my gosh, dude.
So you got to go to a couple chapter headings. They're close to the end.
Yeah, I believe.
Give me like just one random one. Let's see if it says from the musings of El.
Oh my gosh. Oh, wow.
Give me one.
Yes, I look forward to ruling the humans. Musings of El on the first of the final 10
Which
days.
is exactly what happens in his conversation with Odium. He says, yeah, you can rule this planet. I don't care.
Wow. Nearly as much as I look forward to serving you, newest Odium. Wow, this is just the conversation.
Unreal.
This is so nuts. Who was so recently one of them. You understand, and you are the one I've been waiting to worship. I think that's an exact quote.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
See, this is where it's... I
it
never
says on
get
the
any
first day.
I never
that
get
was not the first
anything
day.
out of these quips when I'm reading the book. It's always later. I'm like, oh, how cool is that? It's like an intentional hidden Easter egg kind of a thing.
Yeah, seriously. It says the first day on that, though. That was not...
You sure it wasn't?
That
wasn't in part 1?
It wasn't in part 1.
It might have been in
I know
part
for
one.
sure that wasn't part 1.
Oh, okay.
I know. This was page 190 or...
Wow.
I know. I looked it up before I came here. It was interlude. It was 3:15.
Oh, it's an interlude, so that can technically be, that's at the same time. I'll allow that.
It says the end of day 2. Interlude. L.
We're going to have to give it to him on a loophole. Because you don't technically know when any
It has to be the same time period.
It doesn't have... Okay, you're going to say it has to be
for
on
the
an interlude?
This interlude... The way these interludes are structured...
The way Brandon writes interludes, you never know when or how or where it's occurring. That's like his big thing.
That is not true. You assume that it's taking place at the same time. Here.
That might have to be an open question then, because I don't know about that.
I'm going to refute that right now.
Okay.
So you get perspective from Odium and Kalak, right? Kalak gets attacked by the Ghostbloods right in the first interludes, after the Shalon leaves. So that takes place at a specific time.
I do agree that it can occur at the same time. However, it is definitely not a rule of Sanderson that the interludes occur in chronological order.
This one, it would have to make sense because this whole book has like numbers straight through the end.
That's true.
I don't know. I think it makes sense to me. I guess
maybe you just discovered a Sanderson plot hole.
I know. And
now I have to re-release Rhythm of War and fix all those days.
Yeah. Well, in this day 4, the last ones is he's talking to Baxel. I think he's talking to Elle in this one too, right?
No,
it's just Odium.
Yeah.
Baxel. Anyways.
I know. I'm just saying. It's kind of cool that it comes all the way back to the previous book. I think that's sweet.
We start going through the pilgrimage. This is the map.
Yeah.
Of Shinovar.
Yeah.
Have you looked at this?
I've looked. So I had to go back. So I grabbed my book specifically to look at the drawings because they like describe them in the audiobook. And I skipped through that immediately. That means nothing to me. It's like trying to describe how it looks, which, I mean, kudos to them for making it work. But I just don't. I can't listen to that. So I go back and I just look at them because I think it makes more sense.
Wow.
Because it describes like what the shard plate looks like. And I'm like, I don't want to listen to someone describe what a picture looks like for 3 minutes. I want to just look at it. Anyway.
Wow. Okay, that's cool.
It is cool. So I would recommend if you're listening to the book, go back and look at the actual illustrations because they are really cool in this book.
And I think the Audible at least has PDFs that you can go through.
Really? I didn't find one.
It says it in the Audible every single time. This one contains PDFs, like whatever. Look at. So.
I don't listen to the beginning parts. Yep, there's a little.
There you go.
Little tidbit there.
Got him. Wow, that's crazy though. Okay, so. Let's okay. Other things. So anything else with Dalinar? So I want to say, let's go back to Dalinar.
Okay.
And so we talked about how we were blown away that it was just going to be 10 days, the whole book. I also was looking forward to this book because I was like, this is going to be the book where we're finally going to find out about Dalinar and how his cool bondsmith powers.
Yes.
Then I'm like, oh man, it's only 10 days. You're not going to figure out everything in 10 days.
And he's even trying to become Honor.
Yeah, everything. And so I'm like, we're not going to learn about the cool bondsmith stuff. Is you're really going to wait until like the back 6 through 10 books to let us make that happen?
I think
you've even got Navani, so I was like, we got 2 chances.
There might be enough time in 5 more books though to really make it as cool as it needs to be.
But that's in like 10 years from now. Like I don't want to wait that long.
That's a long
but
time.
Here's what encouraged me about this.
Okay.
They are now going to the spiritual realm.
Okay.
Where time is not the same. How convenient, Brandon Sanderson.
How convenient.
How convenient.
A little sneaky time travel action.
Oh, yes. This is totally what's going to happen. So what's going to happen is they're going to go to the spiritual realm, and he's going to have all the time he wants to prepare to fight against Odium, and Odium's champion, and have tons and tons of training time, learn how to be a super awesome bondsmith, and come back and have all the bondsmith abilities.
That'd be interesting.
Yes, it would be interesting.
We don't know yet, but I think it's an interesting theory. I think it's interesting, again, a couple of callbacks to other books, too, because one of Dalinar's things that he's talking about is, like, I can become honor. Like, I'll just do that. That sounds great. Like, what better way to compete with Odium than just becoming honor? You know, problem solved. And Stormfather does not like that plan.
Nope, because he is honor.
Well, maybe. But he definitely doesn't
watch
like
for it. It's kind of sus.
I'm starting to get the clues to come together. I still like my theory. But anyway, one of the things I thought was interesting is Wit specifically says, and I quote, "The power has only been given up once. And it was the most selfless thing I have ever seen." I'm going to leave it there. But I just think it's a really cool moment.
That was so cool.
Really cool moment. I'm
so
like,
cool.
oh.
I remember thinking that too. It was like, wow.
It was the most selfless thing I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Like, hey, for Hoyd to say that's a big deal.
And did he even go forward and say, like, it was the wrong decision, though? Like,
yeah, he did. He was like, it wasn't the right decision to make, but it's still the most selfless thing I've ever seen. And then he definitely has a lot of descriptive stuff about, this is the big part of this book that I like. He goes through a lot of, like, how shards splintered, and, like, he talks more about what that means, or how the power collects, and they just talk about so much more specific Cosmere question answering information in this book. Way more than I expected, and way more than we've seen in Sanderson in the past. Really cool that they do that.
Yeah, very cool. Yeah, I liked all that too. Yeah, he's interesting. Even Yasna talks about, he's like, yeah, apparently he visits other worlds in his dreams or whatever. I'm like, what in the world? Like,
wild.
Yeah, Wit is amazing, so it's crazy. But it also, other people who do not sleep, Navani.
Navani does not need sleep.
Navani,
this was part of what we got to hear in the live reading.
Oh, this was so cool, guys. We got to listen to Kate Redding and Michael Kramer read live. And you know what my favorite part was? They didn't just choose a chapter and then have, like, one person reads the whole chapter, then the other person reads the next chapter, depending on whose perspective it is.
Which is normally what they would do in the book.
Yeah, which is they do in the audiobook, but they interchanged depending on if he was male or female characters.
Yeah.
And it worked so well. I wish they read the whole book like that. Oh,
yeah.
Because Kate Redding reading like a Dalinar or Adolin drives me nuts.
It's a little painful sometimes.
Yes. But she is so good at Pattern and Shalon and, like, Navani. And
it's just crazy to watch them. And it's because in my mind, when they change voices, the perspective and the imagination changes. Right?
Yeah.
And I think that's pretty common for everyone. But when you watch them read it out, you're like, they're doing all these voices, just them.
Yeah,
just wild.
And it's cool too because they act with it too. Like she's like pulling her arms close,
leaning
and
forward,
talking,
coming
and
back, sitting
making
up,
faces and all these things. Like, they were cool.
We talked a lot about this actually in our day 2 recap. So if you haven't seen our Dragonsteel Nexus recaps, check out the day 2 one if you want a little bit more detail on how that reading went, because it was pretty awesome.
It was so cool. But this is the part that we heard in the reading.
That Navani will not sleep anymore.
She doesn't need to sleep.
No.
And I'm like,
it really throws her off too.
Navani more and more is becoming one of my favorite characters in the books. I love reading about Navani. I want more Navani.
Yeah.
But
I agree with that.
Now she's lost in the spiritual realm, so I don't know if it's
Dalinar,
gonna be cool anymore.
They're gonna have to find her at some point.
I know.
They gotta find Dalinar.
Oh my gosh.
And so they did that. They're experimenting in the spiritual realm so that they can discover more about honor. They learn more about the visions, control the visions, because that's where the power of honor exists, is what we're saying.
Yeah, they're saying it's lost in there somehow. But anyways, she can now feel all of the spren in the tower.
Yep.
She can know everything that's going on in the tower. Apparently can't leave the tower, though.
No, for more than 3 weeks is what she said, or the bond starts to weaken.
Odd. That honestly feels a little bit
thing.
Like scary. Like, that would be the worst to, like,
I'm stuck. I think the big reason for that is it talks in an actual illustration that the representation of the tower spren in Shadesmar is a crystal version of the tower, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
But that also means it doesn't move like a normal spren would. In Shadesmar, the spren move around to follow their radiant. But in this case, the tower is a crystal structure. It cannot move.
So you're telling me it probably wouldn't be a good idea to summon it as a shard blade?
Yeah, that would be interesting.
No, that would be interesting.
I don't even know what. I think so maybe it exists in a state of perpetual summoningness. You know what I mean? Like maybe it's been summoned. Like it's all like the tower is a summoned, invested entity.
Could be.
You know what I mean?
Could be. Okay, but so they get sucked into the spiritual realm.
Dalinar and Navani.
Dalinar and Navani.
Yes.
But part of the reason of that happening all comes from the Shallan story.
Or the reason that's so terrifying. Or so the reason they get captured in there, basically. Instead of their experiment working, it gets kind of ruined because of Shallan. Well, not Shallan.
Yep. After, Wit has gone through no end of telling them how dangerous and horrible the spiritual realm is. It's like, just so you know, as long as you have your safety harness on, then you'll be okay. And then whoop, let's just cut the cord. It's like rock climbing pretty much. That's what it feels like, because they're tethered in and they're like, we're going to just cut your rock climbing rope and you're going to go on your own.
Anyway, see you later.
Solo. Yeah. So that's nuts. So
Shallan opens her kind of narrative as she's infiltrating the Ghostbloods meeting, right? She's pretending to be a Ghostblood member and she goes to their secret hideout.
Oh man.
Because she talks about her posse of guards and they're like, okay, we need to attack.
You gotta back up even more.
How far do I need to back up?
Well, she was at Lasting Integrity and they're leaving Lasting Integrity and she starts fighting the
you're right.
I know, dude.
Honestly, I thought that was last book. Okay,
dude,
go ahead.
Nuts. That was a lot that happened in these few parts. Honestly, we're 20 hours into this book. That is like sometimes the length of 2 books for some people. And we're only a third of the way in this book.
That's wild.
It's crazy. But anyways, she is able to fight these fused and she is able to use substantiation, which is basically, it sounds like a form of light weaving where she is able to make something physical that can actually stab and fight and things like that. She makes Radiant a real person.
Because normally her light weaving is just an illusion, right? It's basically smoke. You could just pass through it. But in this case, her light weaving stabs somebody.
Yeah. And the fuse is ticked about it. He's like
was
what?
Blown away.
You're not allowed to do that. You guys promised that you'd never do that, which is also kind of crazy.
That I did not catch.
Oh yeah.
I'm remembering it now, but I didn't.
Yeah, he's like, you guys swore you'd never do that, and you guys are using it now, and he's like, I gotta tell Odium or whatever, and it's so fascinating because what does that mean? Are the fused now going to be allowed to do something too because of rules broken? And
dude,
but she didn't even know it was a rule, and
it's crazy. But
you broke my rule. What's
the way
your rule?
They're fighting was so odd because they're just fighting in Shadesmar is so weird for them. Because as Radiants, they're used to, especially Adolin, you can't call your Shardblade because you're in Shadesmar. Your Shardblade's standing right next to you. What are you gonna do?
Yep.
So that's
But the
really
crazy thing
barely
is,
survived.
She uses a Shardblade.
Yeah.
In Shadesmar.
Shalon does, which means Shalon has some serious powers. But
Seriously?
The Adolin thing is funny because he happened to pack 19 swords. So he happened to be able to get his dagger out and stab a few.
Adolin is also quickly rising to the top of my favorite
I was going to
characters.
say the same thing.
He might be my favorite character in the whole series so far.
She's like, what do you do? He's like, okay, whoa, I need these swords. Let me just explain why I need the two-handed sword for a very different reason than I need this curved dagger. They're different and I need both.
That's how I feel about all my different athletic shoes. This movie has you need running shoes and mountain biking shoes and disc golf shoes and weightlifting shoes and
yes, I cannot switch them.
And work shoes. And it's just so funny. They're all very important. They're all most of these are athletics, but they have different athletics.
That is awesome. But that's one of the reasons I like Adolin even more. He's just so fun.
Yeah, it's so funny. Yeah, Adolin's the best. But so Shalon is crazy with she's actually less crazy than she was in the last book. But crazy as in crazy as in awesome.
Yes.
But we can go into the Ghostbloods though. That is super interesting.
Anecdote as we do that though. The relationship writing in this book is dialed up to a 10. Compared to the other 4, the amount of just relationship dialogue and relationship narration is way more than we've seen in other books.
Romance you're talking about?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Romance dialogue and all this stuff.
I don't know what happened to Sanderson. He's throwing swearing in here and romance and stuff which is I've read other books with that stuff in there, but it's not been a cornerstone of his books at all.
It's the fact that it's so different for Sanderson that's like, whoa, that threw me off. Like, you get the Renarin and Relaine, you get the Shallan and Adolin a lot more. It's like just like way more specifics on the relationship than I'm used to seeing. I'm like, oh, okay. Like,
okay, I guess we're going down that.
No, but it's I think it's interesting. It's just funny to see how he's growing as a writer. He's bringing a lot more facets into his book than just like the action or just the Anyway,
definitely
something to note.
Well, it was interesting. He had a complete turnaround with the Yasna and Wit thing. Felt jarring because
that was a very significant. That's another one that I was talking about. The relationship that's just like dialed it up to 10.
They implied it in Rhythm of War a lot.
They go deep into it.
But I don't. It's the part that no, you're right. They do go deep into it in this next book. But the thing is, in Rhythm of War, it made it clear that she didn't care about the relationship with Wit.
Yeah.
She's like I'm just doing the relationship because he likes the relationship. But that's not the sense that you get in this newest book.
No,
it kind of feels like he had like
definitely dating.
Yeah, he had like a turnaround, and like she's like disappointed like that he's snoring or something like that. Like I don't know, it was just weird to see like the turn. Like okay, it just felt like a different Yasna all of a sudden. Like he decided that he actually wanted the relationship with Wit.
You can't change Yasna. And, like, come on.
Well, I know, but I just like it was just like a complete turnaround of like I don't know. It was just jarring.
It did feel different, but that's why I noted it. Relationships up to a 10 in this book.
That was hilarious. Yeah. Okay. But Shalon, though, other part, she starts having these like little beads start following her around that are really eager.
Yes.
And it's her shard plate. A shard plate. I love her cheering shard plate. It is the funniest thing. It's almost as good as the stick. Like,
it's good.
It's the same thing. Like, Shalon, like just like cheering every
that's
single
all
time.
they say. That's all they say over and over again, no matter what the context.
It's like the stick. It's just like the stick.
But I wonder if that's because she has that soul casting ability that like the entities in Shadesmar like want to impress her. They feel this kinship. And that's why people like Yasna are just able to command soul casting so fast, so easily, because they just want to do what these people want them to do. They just control reality. Yep. And she even has a moment where she's like, what is even real anymore? Because like she's contorting reality and now in ways that are physically, corporeal is kind of a weird word for that, but like they have substance.
Yep.
They have like, now she's like, man, like, was that a real person? Is this a real person I'm talking to, or did I create them?
Yeah,
that's gotta
that is kind of creepy though, especially with her history. Like, I was like, poor Shalon. Like, that's
not the
awful.
right person to have those issues.
I was like,
yeah.
No, that's crazy. But yes, the cheering shard plate is got to be one of my favorite characters now.
They're still trying to figure out how to use it.
Yeah,
she tries to give it to like Gaz and the other, and they just it'll go around them, but they can't move.
Which is interesting though. I kind of feel like that's normal though. I wonder if that's how it would work for Adolin as well, though.
I mean, Kaladin figured it out.
Or not Adolin, Kaladin, yes. Because Kaladin... but he's not having them move with it, is he?
Not that we know
The only time we saw it was in Rhythm of War so far. But he just used it as like shields. Like he just threw it on people on shields. Yeah. And so who knows if they were like stuck. But
it's a good point.
Anyways, I laughed out loud every single time like I heard the Shalon thing. And I think it's also Kate Redding's voice for it. She just nails it. Nails it.
It's so good.
She's so good at it. So love that.
And then her second big storyline is the Ghostbloods.
Yes.
Which I can't believe I skipped this entirely. There's a lot that happens in this book. But yeah, so the second big storyline, she infiltrates the Ghostbloods and goes to their secret hideout because she figures out we need to go on the offensive against these Ghostbloods. Otherwise, we're just waiting for them to attack us.
Yep.
So she finds out where they're hiding, and then she goes into one of their meetings. And it's like,
and she realizes that Mraize is a normal person.
That's where she's like, these guys are just
like, look at those pant legs tucked in. See, this is the older you get in life, the more you will realize that every single person in the world is just a normal person,
just winging it.
They're just winging it. We say this all the time. Like the CEOs, like the presidents, your parents, like your friends, like everyone you think has it nailed and dialed, they don't. They're just winging it. Everyone's winging it. Like it's interesting. Just some people are good at making it look like they're not. Like
she's terrified for most of this. She's like, they're gonna figure me out. Like it's so.
Yep. But they probably think that she's not winging it either. Like you think about both perspectives. Like Shallan, from an outside perspective,
seems like a pro.
Looks legit. And like anyway.
But she's so in this,
cool.
but she doesn't know their ways. But Ghostbloods have all kinds of weird ways. You know, they're odd. They have different languages they speak. So the lady's like talking to her in this language, and she's like, I don't even know what you're saying. Let alone what am I gonna say back? So she's trying to like call attention to like John, not over here. Like she's like, oh, look at that. It's interesting.
Yes.
Eventually gets found out though. I don't remember exactly what moment she gets found out.
It's right after the Jean Not moment, and then I can't remember what causes it either.
But this meeting basically turns into they're deciding that they need to strike against Dalinar and
go into the spiritual realm.
Yeah, so their goal is to get into the spiritual realm. So when they open that perpendicularity, they need to be there to get in.
Yeah.
That's their goal.
It's such a large scale story.
Because
so scary.
Because they want to find Ba'il Mishram. Like that's their big goal, is to find this unmade.
And everything we've seen from her in this story is terrifying.
Yeah.
Like she seems crazy. And it made her even more terrifying when Taravangian specifically mentions what we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
That she would be the perfect vessel for Odium. I'm like, she would be awful.
Because she's insane.
Yeah, she's insane and like passionate
controlling,
and bloodthirsty and all of the above. Like, holy cow.
The power wants to be with her because of that reason.
Yeah, up to this point, we've only seen Unmade that just kind of like influence people in weird ways and that aren't that scary, and some of them want to be good and stuff. But now we're meeting one that is just like evil.
Yeah.
Like,
and the Ghostbloods somehow want to use that power somehow. Sometimes I feel like these guys are vastly overconfident, but we don't know a ton about them. So maybe they just have secret ulterior motives.
Also sounds like some of these people are acting without Thydokar's direction.
Oh.
They started implying that like are you sure Thydokar would actually want it to be done this way?
Ooh.
And they I don't know if you remember that, but there was a couple of conversations in there that implied like, okay, like he probably wouldn't be okay with our methods of doing it this way, which made me feel better because I like Thydokar a lot. But
that's fair.
Yeah, but it's interesting.
So they do end up kind of escaping Shalon. For the most part, they capture a lot of them, but the small group are able to evade Shalon and her forces, and they get down to the basement where Dalinar and Navani have just recently entered the spiritual realm and wreak havoc.
Yes, they throw an anti-void light or stormlight.
I mean, as part of it,
knife.
they actually did stab, or they shot Shalon
it was an
with a
crossbow,
light,
wasn't it?
Anti-stormlight.
It was anti-stormlight.
Yeah, they shot Shalon with that, and she was able to get away with it. Like, she somehow was able to let the void light pass. She expelled all of her stormlight.
Yes.
So that it wouldn't explode inside of her.
Do you think it would explode you?
That's what she thought.
I know that's what she thought, but is that what you think?
I think it would kill them.
It's going to happen.
I think it would kill them.
You know he's going to make that happen in this book.
I think it would kill them. Yeah. I do. So that's a big deal. But she somehow was able to survive because she thought to expel her stormlight. And then when they get down there, they realize now they've trapped Dalinar and Navani.
So you think anybody who's about to get hit with this thing just has to expel everything before they get hit?
I just think they can't mix. That's the only thing we know. Those lights cannot mix. And if they do, it's explosive.
It's nuts.
Yeah, well,
I know.
I think it's time to get to Kaladin and Zeth's journey.
Yeah, but we forgot to say he throws the knife into like the spiritual realm connection, and that's what sends...
That's what I said. They severed the perpendicularity.
I know. It's just nuts. And now we didn't even get any more information. There's a whole day that's passed, and we don't even know what's going on.
We know nothing. Like, that's kind of going to be a big part of the next part in this series, but I don't know if I have anything to tell you.
Well, yeah, that's all we know is because the next part just says it's Dalinar, Shalon, Kaladin, Zeth, Navani, Adolin, and Zigzal. Zigzal.
Oh.
It could be Zigzal who wrote Wind of Truth. We'll see.
Little foreshadowing for the next video. Probably coming, next week, 2 weeks from now, whenever we get to the
something
part.
like that. The holidays, take a break with that. But
be patient.
Also, just remember that Zigzal is the commander of the Shattered Plains.
Of the Windrunners, yes. Okay. Yeah. That makes sense.
Which is also very cool.
Oh.
Very cool. Oh. Wow. Wow.
Shall we dive into
Yes,
Kaladin
let's go more into that because we talked about it just briefly.
It's exciting.
Let's you start with it.
Okay, I'll start. So this is probably the coolest thing because you don't know a lot about Shinovar and how it works. So you don't know what their structure is like why everything happens. All we know is all the honor blades are there. That's a big deal, and that's an immense amount of power. And we know that Zeth specifically was basically cast out of this group because he was truthless at one point. And then he realized he was not actually truthless. And his big truthless moment was saying that the Radiants have returned. And they said, no, they haven't. That's all we know. That's
and
like
we still don't even really know what it means to be truthless.
No, we don't. Exactly. Yeah. And so we learned a little bit about Zeth's backstory, which was cool. I mean, we're not going to spend a ton of time on it because it was more like a lot of information.
Let's talk about the hard-hitting moments where there
were some hard-hitting
Maggie.
Moments.
Is it
Yep. They
Maggie
killed his sheep.
Is it Maggie?
Yeah. So his sheep that he really loved.
Yeah, that was so sad.
So these...
they killed his sheep.
Feels like vigilantes, but like the warriors that protect them from the raiders. And you just feel like there's some weird stuff going on between these people.
Well, it's because they have the people who add and the people who subtract.
Yes.
And they've just basically decided, like, yes, you guys are protecting our lands and everything, but like... You're bad, and so we're gonna hate you even though you protect us. Which doesn't sound like a very good way to treat your military.
They become bad people, and they just do bad things. So they're like, well, you guys are gonna hate us anyway. Might as well enjoy life, kind of thing.
Yep.
It was just super lame. So they kill the sheep, they eat the sheep, and but it was a sheep that was really important to Zeth. So
Zeth kills him.
Zeth kills him
with a rock,
which is a big deal because Zeth was like before this. He talks about how he liked to dance. He was very respectful. He was very law abiding, foreshadowing for the Skybreakeriness. But he was just a good guy. He was very inquisitive, liked the rules. But then, he just cracks and kills this guy because he's like, this is just wrong. He should not be doing this. And so he cleanses the world of this guy, basically.
I know. Well, and even with those flashbacks, too, you start seeing Zeth's personality even as like a child coming out. He already wants people to make decisions for him. Like his dad and mom was like, why don't you guys just tell me what I'm supposed to do?
He wants to obey, which means he needs a higher law. He needs a law to obey, and then he will obey with exactness. But he does not want to be the one creating that law.
He doesn't want to make any decisions for himself, which has caused him problems in his life.
Yes.
Because that's what
And he's still stuck on that. But he's starting to open up to Kaladin on this journey.
Yes, which is interesting.
We learn a lot about what are called the shamans.
Yes.
Which are pretty interesting.
So fascinating.
So apparently these honor blades, and I'm going to need you to correct me if I misspeak this, because I was reading through it super excited, and I didn't log all the information. So the shaman, basically, I feel like they're these temples. I'm imagining like a kung fu style temple, where there's...
That's what it feels like.
Each one protects an honor blade. And they're obviously all the honor blades for all the different heralds are different. And Shinovar was tasked with holding these honor blades for the heralds. And at any point, they could come back and claim them. But they were to hold them in the meantime. And one of the coolest parts is that in order to become a holder of one of these shard blades, you had to train with them.
Yep.
And what you had to do, basically, was defeat one of these honor blade wielding people unarmed for your first one, and then using that, you had to defeat all of the other honor blades, and then you became like an honor blade protector. What a wild story. Like, that would make a great movie on its own.
I know. It kind of feels like a Pokemon trainer. Like, do you
Yes, you level up in power as you go.
Yeah, you have to go through each Pokemon training, like...
Gym?
Yeah. Did you play Pokemon?
I mean, I'm a Pokemon Go fan.
Oh, yeah.
That came out,
awesome.
I never was as a kid, unfortunately.
Oh, so good, though.
But it's a cool vibe, and you just feel like Shinovar needs its own book backstory. Maybe it's going to be this book. Maybe I'll get enough of it out of this. But I feel like it's going to need an entire book to go through his backstory.
So I have a theory of what's going on with Shinovar. I have lots of theories of it. This is what I do as I read, right? Makes it more fun. I wonder if cultivation is behind the events in Shinovar. So the pilgrimages that Zeth and the warriors take, like to go and like train everything, that's a very cultivation thing.
Okay, and I see the pattern there.
And so like kind of going through that, and then kind of having to go through this pilgrimage as well to go through each one and win every single one is
progression.
Yes, is
cultivation loves that.
And so I wonder. And Shinovar has also been kind of feels like ignored from Odium.
It feels like this little haven, where like the grass is greener, all the good stuff.
And so I'm just kind of wondering if like what's going on is cultivation working in the background to undermine Odium this whole time through the events going on in Shinovar. and we're going to realize that cultivation is actually not as benevolent as she seems.
Oh, that'd be cool. I think, yeah, one of the things that we learn more about, which I was so excited to learn more about, is the Skybreakers and how they work. So one thing that's like really difficult to understand is how the Spren relationship works with a Skybreaker is very different. Because Skybreakers bond to High Spren, and the High Spren are very much in control of that relationship. Very different than like a standard Radiant, where it's almost like they're your blade and like they support you as almost more of a sidekick. It's not how it's supposed to be, but that's how it kind of the vibe for the newer Radiants. But the Skybreakers, the Spren are in charge, and they're the ones that dictate you may now use this surge or you may not use this surge. And the Skybreakers have 2 surges. The Lashings, I don't know what that one's called. Sorry, everyone. The Lashings so they can fly, and the other one is called Division.
Yep.
And Division,
gravitation and Division,
I'm pretty confident is the most powerful, but maybe besides a Bondsmith's connection, the most powerful surge that exists.
Jaden's very excited because
I am excited
because he's a Skybreaker.
I matched with the Skybreakers the Night Radiants, so I was like very involved and like I want to know more about the Skybreakers. And the reason I say that is like even when he starts to use Division, everything around him bursts into flames, which is absolutely insane.
No. Super, super crazy.
You just don't know what's going on. You don't know what the potential is.
I don't even know what that means yet. Like, we still don't know what it means to, like...
Division, so Division, the way I understand it, is that it's just something that can decay anything. Like, can destroy anything. Like, stone, air, water, anything can just be completely destroyed, brought to ash by Division. Which is crazy.
That is really crazy. And that's why they say like that the power has to be like
yeah. They can't use it until they get to basically their 4th ideal, and the Spren says you can use it.
It reminds me of what they talked about with the when they first came to Roshar, all the humans, and they brought all these powers with them.
But that's what they said is the power of Division is reminiscent of the reason they had to leave their last world.
Yes,
because it was basically destroyed.
They talked about bringing in with like fire and like all these things.
So Division is very dangerous.
Yes.
So at one moment, and we get a little bit of like maybe a foreshadowing to what we're going to learn about with the Honor Blades, but he has to fight one of these Honor Shaman blade wielding people. And she's the one that I guess is controlling the stone. Yeah. Again, I'm so bad at the surges, guys. It's got a name. But she can control the stone, and she's trying to fight him with the stone. One thing that is very interesting...
She's a Stone Ward.
She's a Stone Ward. What's very interesting is that she does not get... I'm not going to say tired, but she doesn't really run out of Stormlight.
No,
like
she should. All. We talked about this a little bit earlier.
Yeah, we kind of talked about it a little bit. Basically, the Honor Blades are supposed to be the least efficient way to use Stormlight. Because you're not really connected to Honor. You're not connected to using that Stormlight. But for some reason, she's not running it. We don't know why. But that's an important anecdote. Maybe we'll learn about in the next part. But she's able to fight really powerfully. Basically, the Spren is holding Zeth back from using his second surge until he's almost dead. And then he uses the second surge and like becomes this awesome Skybreaker.
Yeah, so crazy. And she's been tormenting the people in the village. Like it's the people in the village won't like you get there and they're like we won't come out during the day because the ground will eat you.
Like, which is her manipulating the ground.
Which sounds like it, but like
it's got to be.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it does. It has.
She
to
sounds
be, right?
nuts. I think she's been corrupted somehow.
Yeah,
but it's one of those things. Like maybe she has a corrupted Spren, and that's where she's using power from. We don't know. We don't know.
It's nuts.
But the best moment,
unlimited power.
The best moment, and I know we're gonna go into moments at some point, like talk about top 5. I would say maybe as a potential number 1 for me.
Wow.
Is the moment when Zeth is about to die. And his Spren says, like, I will prove the Skybreakers wrong, that you are worthy. And is like that one moment where his Spren just says, fight as a full Skybreaker. Yeah. And then at that moment, Zeth turns it on and it's just
lights the building on fire.
Yeah, he lights everything on fire.
Turns to ashes.
Disintegrates.
Are you convinced
this other
that
person.
He's the one who killed her?
Yes.
Like that's why she turned to ashes?
Yeah.
You think he did that? Because he's not even sure he did that.
I think he did that. I think really? he's still realizing the immense power of Division. And even as he's flying away, the air around him is lighting on fire. And like that's intense. And he basically is allowed to use Division until his Spren says no anymore. But it's like the Skybreakers are the ones who are adhering to the law and are incredibly powerful, but are very limited in their like usage of these powers. Like they are I wouldn't say they're in command of the powers, but they're able to use these powers that are immensely powerful to keep the law.
It's so interesting.
Because they're the ones that hold the power to destroy the world.
What's it going to be like when he fights another Skybreaker in the...
I don't know.
Like that's coming.
I don't know what that's going to look
he's
like.
He's going to fight all of these people. It's nuts.
I think that's why the Skybreakers have to be bound to like a stronger spren, like stronger-minded spren, and to the law. Because if they weren't, these powers would destroy the world.
Oh, yeah. Dude, that's nuts. But, I mean, the Honor Blade, you don't have to have any guiding principles or anything.
That's a good point. There is an Honor Blade that does division.
That's what I'm saying, dude. The Honor Blade's going to be nuts. Also, Kaladin makes a very interesting comment in the book. He talks about how powerful the Stonemason Award was.
Yeah.
And he's like, what in the world? Like, what could I do if I was that good at my own powers?
Yeah.
And so I think it's also hinting at like what we might see like with someone who's a wind.
I've always wanted to see like what the heralds can do. We saw this with Ishar a little bit in the last book of like he took on the 3 windrunners like it was no big deal.
Yeah.
Like I just want to see the heralds fight a little bit more because these guys are the best.
Yeah.
They represent the best of their Order of Knights Radiant. Like they've got to be incredible. We don't really get to see that though because they're all insane.
I know, right? Except for Roshar, you're right.
He's kind of still insane, but at least he's powerful.
Okay, last thing in this area, was thinking about the people who felt safe at night. Again, kind of wondering if this has to do with cultivation because of the Night Watcher, but bringing this back. But this is more. They talk about there being 3. I know this is kind of a hard transition, but there's like 3 main powers in the world. Can't remember if I came to this conclusion while I was reading it or if they said it.
Okay.
But there was the wind. Mm-hmm. Actually, I think I just came to this conclusion on my own. I think it was the wind, the night, and the stone were like the main 3 spren of like the world, like the powers in the world going on.
Interesting.
And we've met the Night Watcher. And we've kind of heard the stone through Venli's experience of the stone talking about the history and things like that. And it sounds like the wind's starting to do it. But for some reason, and these were all super powerful. They say it in the book. But for some reason, the wind started disappearing because something happened. And I swear it's because the storm was trying to take the place of the wind. And I think they pretty much say that in there, that when the storm came, the wind left.
Interesting.
And I think it has to be the Stormfather taking the power of honor.
Okay, you're really pushing it.
I'm really pushing it, but so far this is my going theory on it. But I think it's fascinating.
Okay.
Last thing I wanted to talk about was we'll talk about it briefly. It was just Adolin, in his fighting at Azimir.
Yeah, that is awesome.
It was so good.
It's a cool military moment.
Cool military moment. It's a word of the day. Stuco stem. It's a classic Stuco
right.
stem.
Yeah, I mean, how would you not know that? If you don't play towers, I mean, are you even a general?
As soon as I was like, towers, I'm like, I gotta learn how to play towers. Like, this sounds dope.
It does sound like a really fun version of chess.
I know, right? Like, the people do that with chess and everything, and I play chess against Jade and everything, but I'm like, I don't think it's making me a better military leader as I'm playing that.
How would you know?
That's true. Gotta play more Age of Empires. Maybe I'd know.
Exactly right.
Maybe I'd know. But I think it's really exciting. This is where I really enjoy Sanderson's stories. This is where he started getting back to more of the leadership teachings and things like that, and he really starts letting the Azish commander step in and making sure that he doesn't fail, but letting him take control of his armies, but also making sure like I'm gonna let him be in charge so I don't overstep my authority, but I'm also gonna make sure this doesn't fail, and so I'm going to be ready just in case to catch the ball if he misses.
Yeah,
which is great leadership advice on how to do things. Like, you're not going to fail. No fail at all costs, but also let other people do their job.
Yes, and the respect he shows is pretty cool.
Yeah, which is really cool. And also the Maya bond has been awesome too.
It's continually growing. Like you're seeing that grow in real time, which is pretty sweet.
Yep. Okay, are we ready for our top 5?
I think we're ready. I have a couple that I want to submit.
Okay, let's hear it.
Okay, so Taravangian and L, right from the beginning.
Okay.
That's a big one. Shalon using substantiation.
Yep,
I think is another big one. Huge. And then fight as a full Skybreaker. Probably the best moment of the entire part for me.
Okay.
It was awesome. Like the way that moment was built up, I put the book down after listening to that and read that part again. It was that
Were you reading
good.
it?
I opened up that part. Okay.
Yeah.
I listened to it the first time, loved it, then read it. So
Yeah.
it's like one of each.
So cool.
But
that's my order.
It's awesome,
That's my order.
man. It's awesome.
That's way cool. I think we're gonna have to talk about Gavalar.
Okay, yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Which part? Do you have a part specifically?
I think I would probably go with the very first part, like where he is. He just has to find the right words. Like
so Gavalar's ambition kind of thing?
I would say
Finding the words?
opening lines, Gavalar.
Searching for the words.
Searching for the words. I don't know. That makes it sound like not as good, but just like the opening line of the book is just such a cool moment.
I'll just say opening line.
Yeah.
That's fine.
I
Okay,
think that's
so we have 4 now. How many do we usually
matters.
do the first part? Just 4?
We do 3, I think.
Okay.
But we could do 5 for this. This is such a long part. I'm so surprised. Okay, anything else that was just crazy in here?
I like these. These are good.
Okay.
Which one do you think is number 1? And can you convince me that it's better than fight as a full Skybreaker? It's a pretty good moment.
I know. Yeah. I do think that Gavalar moment is just so nuts.
It's crazy.
Like
it's crazy to see that, but I don't know if it's a number 1 moment.
I'll give you the Skybreaker one for
Thank
now.
you. Thank you. I'll say that one is number 2 though.
Yeah,
I'll
yeah.
give that as number 2.
Fine.
And then I would think number 4. Number 3. I have to decide the substantiation with Shalon, which is a huge power movement.
I think
versus Taravangian.
let me give you a different one.
Okay.
I think that the Marays breaking the tether to the physical realm into the spiritual realm is a massive, crazy moment.
Breaking the perpendicularity.
Sure. Yeah. Breaking the perpendicularity.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
That's number 3?
Yeah, I think that's number 3.
Okay. Then the honorable mentions we have for the next part that might jump in are Shallan using substantiation.
Yep.
And then Taravangian scheming with L, which you just know is going to be a big thing, which will probably be replaced with whatever they were scheming about when we get to that point.
It's interesting how he's written L because he doesn't even he feels very unsinger-like. But I think that's
he
on
doesn't
purpose.
have any rhythms.
He has no rhythms.
He's
kind of
supposed
seems
to, yeah.
human, but he's interested in humans, but also he's just
he's evil.
fascinating.
You know he's evil. So
okay. Well, let me give you one more thing.
Okay.
To wrap this up, there was another huge update in this book.
Okay.
Brandon Sanderson has a new picture on back.
Oh.
Have you seen this?
Very cool.
He actually looks way good in that. He leveled up.
Congratulations.
I saw that. That was huge for me.
That's
I was
a
like,
big congratulations.
Holy crap, man. Oh, yeah, you be careful.
You almost just read the last page.
Yeah, I almost did that the other day, and I realized that it's not usually the book just tells you the different powers and things like that. Not so in this book.
They used every single
They
page.
literally used every page, so I didn't have
You got to be so careful, man.
Woo!
So careful.
Almost spoiled it for myself.
Wow. A few videos from now, we'll get to our final part.
And the very
in our
last
review,
page, it
but
says, and everyone died. You're like,
Don't even do that.
I know. I did not read it. I promise.
Yeah, we're so excited for this reread. Obviously, this is a big thing for us. We love rereading Sanderson books. So if you're along for the journey, you want to join us for it. This is part 1, which consists of days 1, 2, and 3. We'll have probably part 2, part 3, maybe part 4.
Who knows?
As we go through and then do our final review. But read along with us because that makes this so much more fun. Comment below what your favorite parts were, what things were interesting to you, questions you had. This is the community that makes this part of the reread so much fun. So we love having you guys along with us. Thanks for joining us in this video. Like it if you haven't already. And we will see you in the next chapter.